You were here in June 2017, and I remember spending the whole day making sure I could say your last name right. And now you're so well known, it just rolls off my tongue.
Yeah,
Are you just surprised at the reaction you've gotten in these early days of sort of announcing your candidacy?
Yeah, just the speed of it. I mean, obviously, we were hoping for a good reaction. We were hoping for a good response. But the way this thing has taken off is past even our most optimistic scenarios. So now we've got a lot of work to do to make sure we have the organizing and the substance behind it to really take us all the way. But it's a fantastic beginning.
In the early days, before you had name and face recognition, were there humbling moments when you were out on the campaign trail?
Oh, yeah. I mean, not that long ago, I was getting ready to board a flight to New Hampshire. A few people recognized me, came up, said hello. And then the lady standing right next to me said, "You must be Pete." And I was like, "Yeah." She'd clearly seen these interactions. And we had a nice little chat. She said, "Why are you going to New Hampshire?" I was like, "Well, because the campaign, of course." She said, "Oh, right. What station are you a reporter for?" And it was one of those moments that like cut me back down the side before I forgot that like everybody knows who I am. But that's the thing you got to remember is you can feel like you can get into this bubble and feel like everybody's heard your message when actually a lot of people still haven't dialed in for the process yet. They're not following the blow by blow. And my job is to find as many different ways as possible to get the message out to new people.
I want to ask real quick before I get back to your campaign and your candidacy, what was your initial reaction to what we saw today from Barr and the release of the Mueller report?
I mean, I guess it confirmed a lot of things that we were worried about, that we have a president who acts in a self-serving way, that there was a lot of behavior that was at best unethical and legally problematic, to put it charitably. And, the way that the Attorney General conducted himself as though he were the personal attorney of the president was incredibly troubling, too. At the same time, I think politically, I'm not sure it will change much. And it's one more reminder that if we really want to send Trumpism into the history books, the best thing we can do is defeat it decisively at the ballot box in 2020.
You have... I'm very good at judging how the audience feels about something. They're split right down the middle. You have a military background. One of the other things that's been true, I think, for the last 2 years, but especially sort of pulled into focus today, is that Donald Trump sort of always seems to want to dismiss military intelligence while at the same time boasting about what a great supporter of the military is. Is that a hypocrisy that is, do you feel more acutely felt by you because of your military background?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's upsetting is when you're, especially in military intelligence, when you're deployed like when I was in Afghanistan, you do work believing, the highest honor really that can happen to you as a member of the intelligence community is that your work goes to a policymaker to help them make a decision. You believe that they read these things carefully, and when people are putting their lives on the line in order to support U.S. security through good intelligence, that whole system rests on the belief that the president, the generals, that they're using that or at least reading it, right? But that they're using it wisely. To see the way that intelligence is being politicized, to see the way that military families are being treated as props by this president is demoralizing. And it's one more reason why it might not be a bad idea to have somebody in the White House who actually served.
I think there's this question, and obviously, in order to be a successful Democratic candidate, you have to bring together people from many diverse backgrounds. It's obviously a more diverse voting base than I think what you think of as sort of a historically Republican voting base. Yet so when you make a decision, like, do you just commit to the Democratic base, or when you make an approach to Trump voters, how do you speak to them? What message is it that you or any of your colleagues who are trying to get this Democratic nomination approach Trump voters? What's the message you try to give them?
Well, look, there's some voters we're never going to get through to, but there are many others that I think we can. If somebody voted repeatedly Democratic and then voted for this president, out of any number of reasons, but basically voted to burn the House down, I want that voter back voting Democrat again. And they're
sitting there in a house that burned down and they're like, "Oh no."
Yeah,
this was a terrible idea.
Well, to some extent, it came from a level of frustration around the system. And that's not to excuse the racism and other things that went into that campaign, but I think people are more susceptible to those messages of racism and xenophobia if they also feel a certain level of insecurity or uncertainty in their economic and social lives. And so what I think we've got to do is we've got to reach out to those voters, reminding them that we're the ones trying to get you a raise, we're the ones trying to get paid family leave, we're the ones trying to stop the Republican Congress from taking away your health care. And while we do that, and this is the important thing alongside that, we never budge on our bedrock commitment to racial and social justice, because that's where our moral authority as a party comes from in the first place.